Okay, picture this. You've just taken a job working the graveyard shift in a city that is fundamentally, structurally broken down to its very foundation. Today, we're diving into a complete explainer of a truly terrifying ordeal. We're going to follow a brand new 311 operator's dark descent into the hidden, bureaucratic nightmare of Gotham Municipal Services Center 19. We are going to walk through this entire story exactly as it happens, from beginning to end, experiencing exactly what it takes to survive in a city that has institutionalized its own nightmares. Let's get right into it.
So our operator's journey kicks off with an incredibly stark realization. When you're a new hire in this city, you don't learn your way around by looking at a map, right? You don't take a neat little walking tour or stare up at that iconic, brooding skyline. No, you learn Gotham by complaint. You learn the real city through the endless, mundane complaints just pouring through the phone lines every single night. We're talking about a leaking pipe over on Tricorner Avenue, a dead streetlight outside a liquor store, or, rats scratching inside the walls of a city-owned apartment building that is officially listed as completely vacant.
On their very first night, the operator is stationed deep underground, and I mean deep. They're beneath a courthouse, below the municipal archives, and right above these forgotten tunnels that nobody will even admit still connect to the subway. It's down here they are taught the absolute core philosophy of the job. It's simple, really. 911 handles the emergencies, but 311? 311 is where Gotham puts absolutely everything else that it cannot survive calling an emergency.
Down in this dreary bunker, the operator meets their new coworkers, and they are perpetually exhausted, just sipping stale coffee and staring blankly at these old, flickering CRT monitors. And then there's the supervisor, Harlan Voss. Harlan is the kind of guy who wears a brown tie he literally never loosens. He walks up and immediately issues this chilling directive to our new operator. He tells them, never, ever promise a caller that help is on the way. You simply promise the complaint has been recorded, because honestly, that is all the city can actually guarantee.
Now what's really wild is how completely normal the job seems at first. The operator navigates what we'll call Level 1. It's just basic, everyday stuff. Noise violations, steam vents acting up, massive potholes. You get a call about broken public housing elevators trapping elderly tenants, you follow the script, and you assign the tickets. During this phase, you just quickly learn which city departments dispatch a crew and which ones simply ignore the endless ringing. It's bleak, sure, but it's normal.
But the true descent begins at Level 2. And the terrifying part is that it's not marked by screams or panic. It's marked by this eerie, heavy silence. The operator starts to notice that certain city blocks completely stop reporting anything after midnight. Just 0 calls. Nothing from Robinson Park, nothing from Crown Point Hollow. When the operator finally asks a veteran coworker named Keisha about it, she just gives this cryptic explanation. She says people in those zones do still call, but the system doesn't keep them.
Then, Level 3 suddenly hits. A strange transfer code starts flashing on the operator's screen, out of nowhere, Blue 12. This code is triggered by an absolutely panicked courthouse janitor calling in. He's hyperventilating, reporting that there are people just standing in a stairwell facing the concrete wall, all of them wearing city employee badges. And then he drops the real terror. He says he recognizes one of them, and that person has been dead for 6 years.
So the operator naturally scrambles for the standard escalation menu, trying to get this poor janitor some help, right? But the equipment suddenly acts on its own. The computer screen completely freezes, an old analog switchboard next to them just clicks by itself. A strange blue light turns on right above the desk. And then Harlan calmly walks over, leans down, and presses a single button to completely erase the call from existence. He doesn't even blink. He just quietly states, "That was not your call."
The escalation continues straight into Level 4, and this is an area of pure anomaly where those standard scripts completely fail you. The operator starts getting calls about subway trains arriving at stations completely full of faceless people. A school nurse calls in, genuinely asking if children laughing in perfect, unbroken unison counts as a public health concern. And then, a terrified city electrician calls from the underground tunnels, whispering that every single breaker box has been freshly painted with a dire warning: don't restore power.
To even handle this nightmare, the operator is forced to learn a whole series of horrific, unspoken transfer codes. We're talking codes like Redline District, Arkham Overflow, Joker Night Residue, and Wayne Contract Hold. It dawns on them that Gotham operates massive, hidden shadow departments that don't even have names, just extensions. And they quickly learn that when a veteran operator removes their headset and physically walks away from a ringing phone, the safest protocol is to just let it ring. Which brings us to Level 5, the Blueprint of Horror.
Desperate for some kind of logical understanding, our operator decides to break into a sticking filing cabinet in Records Room B during their lunch break. They start frantically reading through heavily redacted Public Works files, because, they are still new enough to hold on to this naive belief that knowing more will somehow keep them safe from what they are hearing on those calls.
But reading these files reveals a completely horrifying truth. Gotham isn't failing due to simple neglect or poor city planning. It's failing because it was meticulously designed this way. It has designated sacrifice zones. Entire neighborhoods were built specifically to absorb crime. Underground tunnels were intentionally left open just to redirect unwanted things back above ground. The emergency systems weren't actually created to rescue people at all. They were designed merely to measure how long the victims lasted.
So, armed with this horrific knowledge, the operator returns to their desk. It's 3:33 a.m. The old pipes in the ceiling are groaning. Suddenly, a call flashes on the screen showing restricted origin, no district, no caller ID. This is level 6. The operator knows, deep in their bones, that they shouldn't answer it. But they are tired, and foolishly, they are still just a bit too human. They reach out, and they press accept.
The moment the line connects, there are 3 agonizing seconds of pure static. Then, accompanied by this terrifying sound of something enormous moving through heavy water in the background, a whispering child pleads for help. They just whisper, "Please don't transfer me back there." Shaken, the operator desperately asks for a location, and the child says they are in a building that, the city officially lists as having burned down years ago. But before the operator can type a single keystroke, the call abruptly disconnects. A calm, automated adult voice cuts into the line, declares operator error, and the ticket just auto-deletes itself. The operator spins their chair around, only to find Harlan already standing right behind them. He looks visibly aged in the dim light. He leans in close and asks, "Did the caller sound human?" At this point, the operator has hit level 7, the workflow of horror. This isn't a transfer code, it's a complete psychological breaking point. They realize that Gotham doesn't just contain horror, it actively trains its citizens and its dispatchers to process impossible horrors as just mundane workflow. You learn to survive it in a very specific order. First, you flinch. Second, you endure it. Third, you document it. And fourth, you normalize it entirely. Later that week, during a late-night diner visit with the other exhausted city workers, a coworker named Keisha is just staring out at the bleeding neon lights in the rain. She brings up Batman, and she notes that, while he fights crime and stops disasters, he cannot fix the systemic, structural rot. As she puts it perfectly, he stops disasters, but he doesn't stop the city from needing them in the first place. Over the next 8 weeks, we watch the operator undergo this complete, terrifying transformation. At 4 weeks, they completely stop dreaming in images and start dreaming only in ticket numbers. At 6 weeks, they get so good they can identify a city district just by the specific pitch of fear in a caller's voice. And finally, at 8 weeks, they lose the last shred of their hope. They completely stop saying, "Help is on the way," and robotically adopt the phrase, "Your report has been logged." Then, the climax of our story hits one night when a man calls to report black mold in a condemned building. Only, he says the mold is actually spelling out names. The operator, in full robotic mode, asks for the address. But the man doesn't give his own address. Instead, he whispers the operator's exact, current, underground location. Municipal Services Center 19, Sublevel 3, Hallway C. The operator slowly turns around in their chair to witness a massive, impossible shift in the room. Right there, just beyond the broken elevator, a previously unnoticed hallway reveals itself. A fluorescent light above it begins to flicker a sickly blue. And then, in perfect, chilling unison, every single veteran operator in the call center removes their headset, places it on the desk, and just lets the phones ring endlessly into the room. Harlan walks over, he goes to his desk, finally reaches in and unlocks this mysterious red folder he has kept heavily guarded since the operator's very first day. Without even making eye contact, Harlan simply hands the folder over and tells them, "You're ready." The operator internally asks the terrifying question, ready for what exactly? But they don't say it out loud, because they immediately realize Gotham has already taught them the answer. They are ready to know the real truth. They are ready to keep working despite it. And they are ready to become just another tired, unfeeling piece of the machinery.
In the final moments of the story, the operator stands up. The headset cord pulls tight in their hand. They just stand there,
listening to the city humming heavily through the concrete walls above them. Somewhere far away, sirens start to rise, and somewhere much closer, a phone starts ringing from a building that burned down decades ago. And for the very first time, the operator doesn't hope it's a mistake. They only hope that the next person who answers remembers to never, ever promise help.
And that, right there, is the grim reality of the city. It survives by fundamentally transforming unimaginable horror into daily paperwork. It makes the unacceptable feel like standard operating procedure. What happens when a city completely institutionalizes its own nightmares? Well, it creates the Gotham Protocol. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.